It was a typical Thursday evening, and I was driving home after catching up with an old friend over dinner. The sky had long darkened, and the streets were eerily quiet. My mind drifted between the day's events and the usual to-do list that awaited me at home. That's when I saw him, a short man standing on the sidewalk, a large bag at his feet, his hand raised in a hopeful gesture for a ride. I slowed my car, contemplating whether to offer him a lift. As I neared, I could see his anxious expression, and something inside me nudged at my conscience. I rolled down the window slightly. "Where are you headed?" I asked, my voice betraying my hesitation. "The cemetery," he replied, his eyes pleading. The request sent a shiver down my spine. Why would anyone be heading to a cemetery at this hour? I was about to decline and drive away, my mind racing with paranoid thoughts. What if there's something sinister in that bag? Could it be a corpse? Seeing my reluctance, the man quickly added, "Please, give me a ride. I guarantee it's nothing criminal. I'll explain everything on the way." There was a sincerity in his voice that made me reconsider. Against my better judgment, I unlocked the passenger door and gestured for him to get in. As he settled into the seat beside me, he began his tale, a story that would leave an indelible mark on my mind. "You see, my wife died 2 months ago," he started, his voice tinged with sorrow. "We were together for almost 30 years, and during that time, we were never apart for more than a week." His words hung heavy in the air, and I could feel the weight of his grief. He continued, "Believe it or not, I can't sleep without her. I have this habit of hugging her to fall asleep. No pills can help me. Insomnia has worn me out. I don't even resemble a human anymore. I thought I might die from it." I glanced at him, noting the dark circles under his eyes, the haggard look on his face. He seemed a man haunted by more than just sleepless nights. Then I had an idea, though it's a bit embarrassing to talk about, he admitted, his cheeks flushing slightly. "I bought myself a doll. Not a sex doll, mind you. I dressed it in my wife's pajamas, put it beside me, hugged it, and fell asleep for the first time since the funeral." I couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy. It was an unconventional solution, but grief makes people do strange things. He went on, "But last night I had a dream. My wife came home and saw me sleeping with the doll. What a scene! She took off her pajamas and threw the doll on the floor. In the dream I explained to her that it was just for sleeping, that there was nothing between us. It was all so absurd." He chuckled ruefully, then continued, "She softened, kissed me, and asked me to light a candle in church and burn her clothes on her grave at night. Then she said I would sleep normally, and I was to throw the doll away the next day." I could feel my skepticism rising, but his sincerity was undeniable. "And you know what? When I woke up this morning, the doll was lying on the floor, and my wife's pajamas were neatly folded on her pillow. So tell me, was it a dream or not?" I was at a loss for words. "Anyway," he said, "I did everything she asked. Now, all that's left is to burn the clothes. Do you believe me?" We had reached the cemetery gates. I waited as he got out of the car, his large bag slung over his shoulder. He turned back to me, a hopeful look in his eyes. "Thank you," he said simply. I handed him a business card with his phone numbers and requested, "Call me or let me know if it worked out. After all, I'm somewhat involved in this now." I drove away from the cemetery, my mind buzzing with the strange encounter. The man's story lingered with me, a blend of sorrow, love, and a touch of the supernatural. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had just witnessed something profound, something beyond the ordinary. A few days passed, and I found myself frequently thinking about the man and his quest for peace. One evening, as I was winding down, my phone rang. The number was unfamiliar, but I answered anyway. "Hello," I said, my curiosity piqued. "It's me," said a familiar voice on the other end. It was the man from that night. "I wanted to let you know. I'm sleeping now. I'm finally sleeping." The joy in his voice was palpable, and I couldn't help but smile. "I'm glad to hear that," I replied. "Take care of yourself." As I hung up, I felt a sense of closure. Sometimes life presents us with strange encounters and stories that defy explanation. But in those moments, we find connections that remind us of our shared humanity, our struggles, and our triumphs. And sometimes those connections come with the simple yet profound realization that we are never truly alone.